A COVID-19 passport system kicks in today. Admission only for the double vaccinated.
It is imperative that our professional staff who are looking after these patients are fully vaccinated, trust and believe and understand the science behind the vaccines and how we get out of this pandemic.
More than 170 hospital staff in Windsor are suspended without pay for not getting their COVID shots, with just a couple weeks left to get their jabs or lose their jobs. A live look at our city there. It's gloomy. It's been raining all day. The rainfall warning issued yesterday persists. And we do have our Chris Ensing out in Lighthouse Cove today checking the conditions out there, so we'll hear from him soon. And Colette Kennedy will be here later on as well for a look at the forecast tonight and into the week. Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for watching. Vaccine passports in Ontario are now in effect. You need to show proof of vaccination if you want to dine in at restaurants, go to a concert, or work out at a gym. Those are just some of the non-essential businesses mandated to check people's vaccine passports. Our Jacob Barker checked in with some business owners and customers to see how it's all being welcomed.
Can I have to see your full vaccination receipt and then the proof of ID, please?
We went out to see how Bali's Kitchen on Erie Street would be implementing the vaccine passport today.
Second doses, 14 days, name is correct. There you go, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you. Well, that works pretty well as long as you've got your vaccination card and a piece of ID. But for the first real customers today, however, things didn't quite go so smoothly.
The lady was only her first dose of vaccine. And then from the government is request for fully vaccinated, which is 2 doses, and also 14 days.
Bali's only recently opened at this location, and while welcoming new customers might prove challenging, they are on board with the passports.
It is a very good idea, right? Because we see the case right now is going up again. Yeah. We want to keep it low and we don't want another lockdown.
Welcoming people at the door at the Lumberjack today came with some anxiety attached.
Perfect, you're ready to go. I was kind of nervous at first, thought people were going to be angry, but lots of people are actually prepared.
Well, here too there was some confusion from people that only had 1 dose. The diners that did make it inside were happy with the new rule.
People who are going by the rules should be rewarded, and I guess this is a reward. If you have it, you get to come into restaurants, you get to go to the casino, you get to go out drinking with your friends.
And if you don't?
Then you sit at home in a 4x4 kind of cell, like a prisoner.
Best idea, because I don't feel as comfortable around people that have not been vaccinated and refuse to be vaccinated.
Not every establishment agrees with the mandate, however. This Tecumseh Cafe has decided to stay open despite their convictions.
Our position from our company since day one has always been, you put healthy ingredients in your body, you live an active lifestyle, you surround yourself with good people in a positive environment. I don't see the need for a vaccine. While Troy Maleko says he will be going along with the mandate, he fears the effect it will have on his business. A good majority of our customers, I believe, are not of the same mindset being mandated from the government. So we could be potentially losing customers by going ahead and complying to this mandate. For now, the government is asking people to show a paper or digital copy of their vaccination status until next month, when they plan to issue QR codes that businesses can scan to get the information. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
And Windsor Police are letting the public know that they will not be conducting routine checks now that vaccine passports are in effect, but they are asking everyone not to call 911 for vaccine enforcement issues, but to call 311 instead. More than 170 hospital workers in Windsor have been suspended without pay because they haven't gotten a dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. 32 at Hotel Dieu, the rest at Windsor Regional. Officials say the science supports it, and not doing so poses too much of a risk. What happens now is anyone suspended who does not get their first shot by early October faces termination. All this as hospitalization rates in the region are going up.
We can't cope with unvaccinated staff at the hospital. So as a result, we definitely can cope with vaccinated staff. Vaccines plus public health measures are the proven way through this pandemic. We can't lead by example if our own staff are not double vaccinated. None of us on this call are going to have another conversation with a family and say we didn't do everything we could have to prevent their family member who might be coming to this hospital for issues unrelated to COVID, contracting COVID while they're here. That's not to say it won't happen, but by having unvaccinated individuals in the facility as staff, taking care of them or being involved in their care, that risk is too high.
How does it feel for your team that it's come to this, that we've reached this point where termination is kind of the last resort to get staff vaccinated at your hospital?
Well, I mean, overall, looking back is, to get to this point 2 years ago, you would hope it would never get to this point, but we truly have no choice. We have to do this.
Windsor regional officials say they're going to lean on some temporary backfill in the meantime, and then if suspended staff don't reconsider their positions by October, the hospital will have to start recruiting to fill their positions. The mandate was first announced at the start of the month, and since then, many minds were changed. The vaccination rate at Windsor Regional was about 80% at that time. It's now up to about 97% vaccinated among staff. And Windsor Regional and Hotel Dieu aren't the only ones mandating this. However, other hospitals have later deadlines. At Erie Shores in Leamington, the deadline to have at least one dose to attend the hospital is October 4th. And both the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance and Blue Water Health in Sarnia have a deadline of October 31st for staff. You just need to look out a window to know our next story. The region is getting drenched. Some areas could get up to 125 millimeters of rain by tomorrow morning. And for a region that's seen its share of flooding, weather like this puts residents on edge. And today, with the high winds, it's the coastline that's taking a beating. And that's where our Chris Ensing is. He's in Lighthouse Cove. Chris, on most days, that is a charming spot, but not so much right now. What's it like out there?
Not at all, Kat. It's windy. The rain has stopped for a little bit, but that's not the problem. It's all about the wind as you see the camera shaking. I'm going to step out of the way. You see that Lake St. Clair wavy, looking a little angry. A big tree that's actually been pushed up here as well. Now, that's the problem. When the water is as high as it is, not at record highs, but still above normal, and then the wind comes in, if it's coming in the right direction, it pushes those waves and slams them on the break wall that you see behind me there. That's what causes the shoreline erosion. It's also a cause for sleepless nights for people who live in Lighthouse Cove or anywhere along the shoreline. Now, you can do something about that, but it requires a lot of cash and a lot of time. I spoke with one man who, his family, they've been here since 2004. They've installed a berm. They've installed a break wall that's angled so the waves crash back out into the water. And they also got sub pumps in their basement. Worth it though, because they'll sleep easy tonight.
It was very anxious times. We had water up 2 feet up on our patio doors. The waves aren't coming over the wall like they used to. They used to come over the wall and hit the house. And now that's not happening because the water's down.
You'd have them really splashing against, eh?
Yeah, wow. Even before that extension was on, they'd hit the house.
And Chris, you can hear how intense that wind is there, and conservation officials, they've issued a number of warnings for the Great Lakes over the last several months. But what are they saying about what this season is going to look like?
Yeah, Kat, just before air here, they actually issued another warning, a flood watch. So you're going to want to pay attention if you're on the shoreline between the city of Windsor and Lakeshore. Same if you're on Lake St. Clair or Lake Erie. Our folks out in Erie and around Erie Shore Drive have already seen overland flooding. Now, is this the new normal? That's the question that I had. We've been warned about record highs, but I was told this was a relatively quiet summer when it comes to flooding. Now, that isn't going to hold true for the fall, according to Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. That's because those high-level events where the water is already up will be met by those stronger storms, just like the one we're experiencing today. But it leaves some interpretation for what those extremes are going to be and what it means for people who live in Lighthouse Cove in the future.
New normal is greater extremes. So right now, these last few years, we've been talking a lot of high water and it's extreme. And people are putting a lot of work into it. But then at some point, there's going to be lower water. And when we're talking long-term long-term climate change. They're talking periods of even lower lake levels than normal. And so then people are going to have to adapt to that as well.
And Ken, I'm just going to step aside and take one last look at what it's like right now. You can see those waves crashing back on up. These are those extremes that they talk about, the first day of fall, the first storm. We're watching it now, but people in Windsor on Thursday, on Friday, we're expected to see more rain, more flooding, more worries about those basements. Kat.
Thanks for this, Chris. And now a chance for you to get inside and get dry and get warm out of that wind. That's the CBC's Chris Ensing live in Lighthouse Cove. Premier Doug Ford is sharing his impressions after yesterday's visit to the explosion site in Wheatley. It's been a month since that blast. And now the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry is taking the lead, looking into what happened. Residents and business owners still have no date for when they can return to the area. Today, at a press conference, Ford spoke about the people who he met and suggested people give to the town's crowdfunding project.
This community has really pulled together in the face of adversity. They're showing unbelievable strength and resilience, but they need our help. So I want to give them a shout out. The Wheatley Disaster Relief GoFundMe page. As I told them yesterday, our government will be there to support them in any way we can. And if you're able, please do what you can to help this incredible community get back on their feet. Hashtag Wheatley Strong.
And now to our latest COVID-19 numbers. Today, Windsor, Essex saw an increase of 50 new cases and one more person has died. We now have 347 active cases and 20 outbreaks. The vast majority are workplace related, 5 are in schools. We're also seeing an increase in hospitalizations. We're at 22 today, and that's up from 15 on Monday. A Windsor high school, which was forced to close after a COVID outbreak, will reopen its doors tomorrow. St. Joseph's Catholic High School sent all its students and staff home last week after 5 COVID cases were traced back to it. So far, it's been the only school in Windsor, Essex to have to completely shut down for this school year, that is. But health officials have now inspected the building and given it the green light to resume in-person learning. The Public School Board in Windsor, Essex says it will be ready to play football this fall if it gets clearance from the health unit. Last night, school superintendent Todd Auender told the board that team helmets have been sent away to be certified, and that safety requirement had lapsed. COVID has also meant a pause to extracurriculars. The superintendent says the health unit plans to announce October 1st whether or not students can play.
Well, it's really important to a lot of kids, you know, especially the grade 9 kids, right? Grade 9, because if they don't play this season, they're going to be going into next year without any football experience. So, yeah, it would be awesome for the grade 9 kids to get into the high school program and play a little bit of football or any extracurricular, really.
Recertifying helmets is costing the public board about $8,000. A spokesperson for the Catholic board says its helmets won't get done until next year. Windsor's youth now have more time to get fully vaccinated in order to participate in activities at municipally run rec or event facilities like hockey and other sports. The city has yet again updated its rules on this. As of yesterday, athletes under the age of 18 needed 1 shot of the vaccine as of today and 2 shots as of November 1st. But now they have until the 15th of November to get double dosed. For non-participants or spectators, you also need both doses of the vaccine to be in the building, and that's now mandated by the province as of today. This is just for indoor city venues. It does not apply to anything outdoors. Election day is over, but some of the winners have yet to be decided. Right now, there are more than a dozen ridings across the country that are in flux, as local special ballots, including mail-in ballots, are still being counted. Marina von Stackelberg has this report.
Thank you, Fredericton. Jenica Atwin has waited nearly 2 days to find out she'll keep her job in the House of Commons.
Here in Fredericton, it was a close call. As we know, we've been holding our breath for the last couple of days.
The former Green Party MP crossed the floor to join the Liberal Party this spring. She's now won against her Conservative rival by just over 500 votes. One of the many tight races across the country.
With, I think it was 36% of the vote, there are a lot of people out there, who are looking to me now and hoping that I can also be their representative.
Liberal incumbent Arif Virani only just found out he beat the NDP to keep his Toronto riding of Parkdale High Park.
I'm willing to wait, and democracy sometimes takes time, and this time it took a bit more time.
But many ridings are still waiting. Ballots from about a dozen races are still being counted. The reason? A record number, more than 1 million Canadians, applied to vote using special ballot. Many of those were mailed in, and all those votes could not be counted by poll workers until the day after the election.
I'm assuming that a lot of people were counting ballots instead of sheep last night.
And in tight races across the country, every vote counts. Elections Canada says we might not know some winners until Friday. That could be a historically long time to get results.
I've never seen such a long wait, and it is because of the special ballot and the safeguards that are in place. So I know it might be frustrating.
What we are also still waiting to find out is how many eligible Canadians actually showed up to cast their ballot. Elections Canada says it could be less than 60%. That would be the lowest voter turnout in more than a decade. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
There's a new addition to Canadian Red Cross's first aid and CPR training, opioid overdose response. This comes as opioid-related deaths have risen sharply during the pandemic. As Talia Ricci reports, health experts and those who have lost loved ones to overdoses say this step is long overdue.
Brad was my older brother who died in 2015 of an overdose. He was 43. He left behind 3 children.
Oh, Darren, you're still open to me.
Brad Chapman's death led to a coroner's inquest.
All right, and a live look at our city there. Sorry for that technical hiccup there. The downpour is going to continue throughout the region into this evening. Some areas expecting about 100 millimeters of rain into the early morning. So Colette Kennedy, she is keeping a close watch, and she will be right here with the full look at the forecast right after the break. Colette Kennedy joins us now. Colette, a lot of rain throughout the region right now. Earlier we saw Chris Ensing out in the field along the shoreline where it's really getting a beating. What do we have to look forward to here?
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, more of the same, and the winds, again, carrying on quite strong. Now, those will eventually be shifting direction, but that's something we're watching carefully for tonight as well. So let me kind of walk you through things, just sort of looking at some of our network of reporting from different sort of folks that are part of this, that they have rain gauges or they've been trained. It's looking like through the area 40 to 60 millimeters. I mean, locally there's some anomalies, but so far through the Windsor region, but it's an additional 20 to 30 to come, and there'll be areas that are going to see way more than, never mind this 75. The emphasis is on the plus, because closer to 100 or more millimeters of rain, especially London just northward. We're seeing that there's some really soggy conditions there, some flash flooding concerns through that region. A lot of our tributaries to creeks, rivers, those are running high and fast. So everything that you need to be kind of cautious of until we can get through this system. The cold front lies here. You can see where the warmer temperatures are from the nation's capital to St. Catharines, Hamilton as well. Cooler readings, though, back behind that front, and also the windier conditions here. So look at the heavier rain that's starting to push into the London region up towards Kitchener-Waterloo along the North Shore. We're seeing this of Lake Erie, and that carries on through the evening overnight hours. We get another batch coming back in towards southwestern Ontario, and that's why I'm saying these additional amounts can be significant through the overnight tonight. Now, tomorrow it's more widespread showery activity and not as much the heavier downpours or those embedded thunderstorms. And Friday, we finally get released and we get to enjoy some sunshine. System is going to come through Saturday, but that one's going to have lesser amounts. So 20, let me keep rolling this forward for you. 20 to 25, like I said, 20 to 30 for the Windsor area. Additional, keep in mind, that's on top of what we've seen. Some readings tonight, 12 degrees, and tomorrow, wow, barely changing, right? I mean, fall started today, 15 to 16 for daytime highs. Friday is going to be just such a welcome change and a chance to dry out a little bit too.
Exactly. I'm sure a lot of folks are excited for that reprieve.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, when we come back, we'll bring you that full story about the overdose prevention strategy that the Canadian Cross is working on. So that's right after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We told you earlier about how there's a new addition to Canadian Red Cross's first aid and CPR training, opioid overdose response. This comes as opioid-related deaths have risen sharply during the pandemic. And as Talia Ricci reports, health experts and those who have lost loved ones to overdoses say this step is long overdue.
Brad was my older brother who died in 2015 of an overdose. He was 43. He left behind 3 children and several grandchildren.
Brad Chapman's death led to a coroner's inquest and a series of recommendations for Ontario, Toronto, and its police force.
This is an injectable kit.
One of them was to ensure first aid training included opioid overdose response.
And it's very easy to use.
His sister is relieved it's finally now happening.
I'm really pleased. I think it's long overdue, to be honest.
When too many of them bind in, that is what causes the opioid poisoning.
The training is funded by the federal government and educates people on what opioid poisoning looks like and how to respond.
Put this up the nose, administer the medication.
Including administering naloxone. The Canadian Red Cross says it's coming at a crucial time.
The deaths were rising incredibly, and there's barriers to people accessing naloxone. And so that became a bit of the focus, is how can we reduce some stigma and normalize the idea of naloxone in everyday Canadians. So we know that communities of 50 to 100,000 have twice the rate of opioid deaths than their larger, urban centers.
According to figures by Public Health Ontario, 2,426 opioid-related deaths occurred in 2020, a 60% increase from the year before.
I knew you were calling me, so I got one of these kits. Right?
Dr. Hans Clark hopes to see the training yield results soon.
All of the things we've told people over the years in terms of opioid use or individuals who use opioids went completely out the window with COVID. Instead of using together, having a community, being around people as you use this, we went to stay isolated, stay away from people. And you can imagine that isolation can grow pretty deep, and you have people in scenarios where they actually can't, get that life-saving treatment that they need.
Chapman can't help but wonder whether her brother would still be around if this training was implemented earlier.
If this training was included, then I think the response might have been quite different.
She hopes the 1.5 million people the Red Cross plan to educate over the next 3 years results in lives being saved. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Visitors to a new museum in Russia are in for a treat. An exhibit that includes sculptures, musical instruments, robots, and costumes, all made from garbage. It's part of a municipal project to promote recycling. The practice is not common in Russia, and most cities there have underdeveloped recycling infrastructure. Only 7% of waste is recycled in Russia. And according to Greenpeace, landfills in the country cover as much space as the entire country of Switzerland. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can check out our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and we're on social media as well, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Have a great night.